The end of Becky at last, as her final Coronation Street scenes are revealed in early ITVX release. Becky Swain's, Amy Cudden, reign of terror is over at last, much to the relief of Coronation Street fans. She has caused nothing but trouble since she rose from the dead last summer, bringing misery to the lives of wife and daughter Lisa and Betsy Swain, Vicky Myers and Sydney Martin, and leaving poor Carla Connor, Alison King, traumatized. Becky was believed to have died 4 years ago in a hit and run, but it later transpired that she had faked her death after an undercover operation with a gang went wrong. However, it slowly became clear that she was also lying about that, and that she had been much more corrupt than anyone had realized. Her one goal was to reclaim her family, picking up where they left off and starting a new life abroad. Unfortunately for Becky, there was one thing standing in her way: Carla. Not only was Carla happily engaged to Lisa, but she was one of the only people who could see Becky for who she really was, and she was determined to get to the bottom of her crimes. Tragically, this led the factory boss straight into the lion's den, after hints from Di Costello of Deon Brony pointed her to Becky's flat. Sure that she'd had something to do with the attack on the DI, Carla was determined to find some evidence. However, Becky caught her red-handed, and Carla ended up trapped in her airing cupboard. While Becky took the opportunity to make herself at home with Lisa and Betsy, with everyone believing that Carla was on a solo trip to Lanzarote to mend her broken heart following her split with Lisa, Becky had plenty of time to cover her tracks and ensure that Lisa fell back into her arms. What she didn't expect, though, was for Carla to get the upper hand and attempt an escape. Becky managed to get the situation back under control, but fate stepped in when she drove her car head-on into oncoming traffic, causing a major pile-up. It was a phone call from Carla to Lisa that distracted Becky and led to the crash, and finally allowed Lisa to see Becky for who she really was. In the immediate aftermath, Lisa placed Becky under arrest, and everyone assumed the worst was over. However, when Lisa visited Becky in prison last week, she made it clear that she planned to paint Lisa as an accessory and take her down with her. In tonight's episode, Lisa shared her fears with Carla, asking her to take care of Betsy if the worst did happen. Carla swore that she would, and both women were unaware that Betsy had been listening from the top of the stairs. Horrified at the thought of losing Lisa, Betsy paid Becky a visit, and made it clear that she was disgusted by her. She blamed her for the death of boyfriend Mason Radcliffe, who was stabbed to death after presenting the police with evidence seemingly related to Becky's death. Becky was left distraught as Betsy declared that she wished she'd died instead of Mason. Poor Betsy was left fearing that she'd made things worse for Lisa, and confided in Lauren Bolton, Kate Fitton, about how she'd spoken to Becky. By the end of the episode, we had finally learnt Becky's fate, but we won't spoil that for you here. Will Betsy and Lisa be free to finally move on with their lives, and will that involve Carla?